Every single sales problem you've ever had, the no-shows, the long sales cycles, the I need to think about it, and the prospects who show up and have no idea what you do, every single one of those traces back to one thing. And it's not your ads, it's not your content, it's not your sales skills, it's not your closers, and it's not your offer. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that problem is, and then I'm going to show you the exact system in excruciating detail that solves that problem, and then lastly, I'm going to tie it all back together. So let's dive right in. And let me start off by listing out some of the symptoms and tell me if any of them hit home. We have low show up rates. You're getting maybe 40 or 50% of people to actually show up to your calls. You blocked out time, your closer blocked out time, but nobody is there. Then we have long sales cycles. It takes you maybe 2 or 3 calls to close someone, and half of them ghost you anyway. Then we have the I need to think about it. We have prospects that compare you on price. They're treating you like a commodity. They're shopping around and they're telling you, well, this guy charges 3K and you're at 8K. What's the difference? And then the founder can close, but the team can't. I mean, you close maybe at 35% and your closer closes at 12%, and the math stops working. You get pulled back onto the calls, and prospects require heavy education on every single call. I mean, your closer spends the first 30 to 45 minutes explaining exactly what you do, how your methodology works, why it's different, what results you have gotten. Your closers are librarians. They're not closers. They're not doing their job. And then lastly, prospects don't understand what makes you different. They show up and go, so what exactly do you do? After seeing your ad, your landing page, your booking form, they still have no fucking idea what you do. And then we have the unqualified people that clog your calendar. These are people who can't afford it and who aren't ready. They're just wasting your time and your team's time. And every single one of these is a symptom, not the disease itself. The disease is, by the time your prospects reaches the call, they don't have enough trust. They don't trust you. They don't trust your methodology. They don't trust your offer. They don't trust your ability to deliver results. They don't trust that this approach works better than the other alternatives out there. And to make this worse, they don't even fully understand what you do. And understanding is a prerequisite for trust. And because the trust wasn't built before the call, you're trying to build it during the call, which is why it takes 45 minutes of education. And this is exactly why everyone says, I need to think about it, and why your closers can't close the way that you do. Because you can build trust live in real time through your expertise, through your stories, through reading the room, but that's not a system, that's a person, and a person doesn't scale. As I said, every single problem is a trust problem. If you have low trust at the beginning of the call, that's why you get the 45 minutes of education. If you have low trust at the end, that's why you get the I need to think about it. And let's put it this way, what you're doing right now is the equivalent of trying to convince someone to marry you on the first day. And of course you wouldn't do it. It would be insane. But that's exactly what most founders are doing on their sales calls. They're asking cold or lukewarm prospects, people who barely know them, to hand over 5, 10, 25K after one conversation. And then you're confused why the close rate is 15%. Every single one of your prospects sits somewhere on this spectrum. And your only job is to move them from the left to the right before the call. But most people get on calls with prospects who sit right here, who are complete strangers. But your job is to move them to someone who's aware of you, to someone who likes your content, to someone who trusts your expertise, and then lastly, to make them completely pre-sold. And this is where they need to be before the call starts. And here's what makes this 10 times harder than it was even 3 years ago. We are in what I call a trust recession. Skepticism is at an all-time high, and information is available everywhere. Competition also everywhere, and person-to-person trust is declining all the time. People have been burned before. They've bought courses that didn't work. They've hired agencies that under-delivered. They've been sold by gurus who promised the entire world and only gave them a fucking PDF. So now when they see your ad, they don't think, oh, interesting. They immediately start creating reasons why you're full of shit. They're always looking for the catch. That's the default reaction right now. Free consultations don't work anymore. Hard selling doesn't work. Fake scarcity doesn't work anymore. Everyone sees right through it. People are not stupid anymore. One-way sales funnels, webinars, cold emails, Facebook groups, DMs, none of it builds enough trust. People can smell desperation and selling from a mile away. They can see when you're trying too hard. And the moment they feel that, you've lost them. The old playbook is dead. And the only people who are running it are the ones in this exact situation. They're spending 15 to 30K per month on ads, they're getting booked calls, and watching half of them no-show, and the other half say, I need to think about it. So let's start to go over some math. And this is the exact scaling paradox. Now, most founders, they try to grow by doing more of the same thing. But more just gives you diminishing returns. Most people say, I need more leads, I need to spend more on ads, I need to create more content, but that's the most expensive mistake you can make. Here's what you need to solve instead. You need to look at your booked to close ratio. And if you want an even more holistic number to track, you need to track your lead to close ratio. Because this shows exactly how both marketing and sales perform together. So here's what you need to track. You need to track how many booked calls you get, how many of them are qualified, then how many show up, and then your close rate. And this is your booked to close ratio. As I said, if you want an even more holistic number, you need to track your lead to close rate, because this right here also takes into consideration the quality of the leads that you get and also how many of your leads book calls. Because as you probably understand, it's completely useless to get leads if none of them book calls. So by tracking this ratio right here, you can make the correct business decisions. Because let's look at an example. Let's say right now you're getting a $10 cost per lead. And let's say that these leads have a 0.25% lead to close rate. Well, that would mean that you have a 4K cost per acquisition. And now let's say that you're thinking about going after higher quality leads. Well, of course, those are going to be more expensive because there are less of them out there in the market. So let's say now you have a $20 cost per lead. And because these leads are much higher quality, they will have a much higher lead to close rate. So realistically, you could maybe get a 0.75% lead to close rate. Well, this would mean that your cost per acquisition is around 2.7K. So just take a look at these two comparisons. Before you tracked your lead to close rate, you would probably hesitate on increasing your cost per lead this much. But if you track the correct numbers, it's very easy math, and now your business becomes common sense. But let's keep going. Let's compare the math between two different businesses, business A and business B. And business A optimizes for more booked calls. So let's say business A gets 100 booked calls per month, but only 40% of them are qualified. So they get 40 qualified calls, and only 55% of them actually show up. So now they have 22 actual conversations, and with an 18% close rate, they get 4 clients per month. And if they have an offer that's 8K, well, then they would make 32K per month. But what you need to realize, they would need 2 to 3 sales reps to handle 100 calls per month. But now let's take a look at business B. So they optimize for booked to close rate. So they may get fewer calls. They maybe only get 60 calls per month because they're going after more qualified calls instead of overall volume. And because of that, they can get 80% of them to be extremely qualified. So now they have 48 qualified calls. And with the correct pre-call systems that I will show you in this video, they can get 85% of them to actually show up. And now they have 41 conversations. Compare this with business A that had 22 conversations. And because they are much more qualified, because they are pre-sold, you can get very easily a 35% close rate. And this would get you 14 clients per month. So with the same 8K offer, this is 112K per month. And you would only need one sales rep to handle the 60 calls, or 2. But you need to understand, if you go with quality and with fewer calls, you don't need to expand your team as dramatically as if you optimize for pure volume. Business B gets 3.5 times more revenue with 40% fewer calls and half the sales team. Yes, the same market, same offer, but a different system. And here is what their calendars may look like. Business A has a calendar full of unqualified prospects, no-shows, and maybe one qualified prospect who shows up. But Business B instead, well, yeah, Business B has fewer calls overall than Business A, but almost all of them are qualified and show up. And obviously, you're not going to get 100% qualified calls. You're always going to get some unqualified ones and some no-shows, but you get the point. You optimize for more quality, for more showed up calls instead of pure volume and just wasting everyone's time. And the very easy analogy for this is the leaky bucket. Imagine you're carrying a bucket of water from a lake 3 miles away. Well, you fill it up, you start walking home, but the bucket has holes. So this entire bucket, that is your pipeline. But your pipeline leaks out to no-shows, to unqualified calls, to I need to think about it, and to people who ghost you after the first message. So what arrives after the 3-mile walk is this, only like 5%. And what most people try to do in this situation is get a bigger bucket, expand their pipeline. But that's a completely wrong solution. The real solution is to fix the holes right here. Then that way you can have the same bucket, you can have the same, capacity, the same size team, but you get much more to remain in the bucket after the 3 mile walk. And this is exactly what a sales system does. It fixes every hole between the first touch and the sales call. And why this happens is, again, very simply, there's not enough trust by the time they reach a call. They don't trust you enough to make a buying decision. And this is very simple. Just think about it. If you had a 100% chance to get a 10x return on your investment, well, obviously you would do, because there's zero likelihood of failure. If you have a 100% chance of something happening, then you're obviously going to do it. So everything is about trust. If a prospect trusts you with a 100% certainty that you can provide results, they will proceed. That's the only thing that matters. So if you build trust, you can solve all of these problems right here. And this is what brings us to the 80-20 flip. Most people do 20% of the selling in their marketing and 80% during the call. And that results in you having to hard sell the hell out of your prospects. And that will obviously lower your close rate. But what you actually should do, the flip, is you should have 80% of your selling should be done by your marketing and only 20% during the call. You want your prospect to show up pre-sold and to have an effortless close. And the reason is because marketing is scalable, a salesperson is not. And you as the founder, well, you are probably the face of your business. So if you do 80% of the selling upfront in marketing, well, then the prospect will trust you. But if you have a sales team, if you have closers, well, then you need the prospect to trust your closer. So what you need to do is you need to transfer that trust to the closer before the call, so that they are no longer librarians. And if we continue on the theme of sales teams, you as the founder, you close so many more deals than your sales team. And the reason is that you use your personal skill, you use your deep expertise, you can read the room, you can tell the right story at the right time. You are a manual trust machine. The way that most founders sell is through something that's called consultative selling. You use your expertise. You provide so much value to the prospects that they get a wow effect, and that's why they buy. But your closers, they don't have the same knowledge, they don't have the same expertise as you do. A closer only has a script, they can't build the same trust live as you do, and this then breaks at scale. So what you want to do is you want to create this wow effect at scale. You need to prove your expertise. You need to provide value in your marketing before the call. As the founder, I will show you the system that achieves this later on in this video. But just so you get your mind going, the way to do this is, as I said, you as a founder need to create that is to use your personal skill in a way that's scalable before the call and then transfer that trust to the closer. That way your closers can close exactly in the same way as you, because you created a wow effect before they ever hopped on the phone. So we can use a grocery store principle, an analogy, to paint a picture of the system that you need to build. And many people go to the store to buy milk, but the milk is intentionally put at the back of the store for a reason. Because the store knows that many people just go there to buy milk. So they want everyone to go through a long path to see all these other products in their way, because that increases the likelihood that they will buy also other things than the milk. And your sales system needs to do the exact same thing. Every video, every email, every page needs to be strategically placed so that no matter where they enter, they will end up at the same destination, a booked call with full of trust. And this is the make or break. Almost everyone tries to optimize the clicks, their marketing. How can we create better ads? How can we create more creatives? How to make our content better? And then they also optimize the close. How can we hire better closers? How can we make a better sales script? But the real problem, the real make or break, is this in between, the dead zone. Most people have nothing in here. They just have their marketing and they just have their sales calls. And that's the only two things they optimize. But the dead zone in between, this is where prospects build trust or fall off forever. So this is what you need to have there in between. So at the beginning, obviously, people find you somewhere. They find you from your short form content, they find you from your ads, doesn't matter. So after that, for the coldest traffic, what you need to have is a quiz funnel. And I will break this all down later on in this video in excruciating detail. What the quiz does is that it provides personalized value at scale that's customized for every single one. And this increases trust to the next step. And after that, you have value emails that nurture even more and get trust to the next level. After that, you have VSL that pre-sell your offer. Then you have your qualification to filter the right fit. And then lastly, you have your pre-call that brings trust to the highest possible level. And that means that your sales calls are confirmation. They are not persuasion. And every single one of these steps are intended to move prospects from the left to the right in the trust continuum. This one right here. Every one of those things that I just showed, they are intentionally placed to move people from the left to the right. And obviously there are a few more things than just these ones right here, but I will show them just in a second. And the reason why this works is again because it provides personalization at scale. Your quiz answers customize the entire journey. It feels handmade and runs on autopilot. And the reason why you want to provide this personalization to people is because this is where everyone starts. They start at zero trust. They actually have a negative trust. When someone sees your ad for the first time, they're immediately skeptical. They start creating reasons why you're full of shit. So at this stage, you cannot ask them to book a call. That's too big of a jump. You can't ask someone to marry you on a first date. The gap between I just saw your ad and I want to get on a call with you is massive. You need a bridge, and the quiz, the personalization is that bridge. The bridge is giving something valuable for free. And again, I will come to this more in depth later on, but it's not a generic PDF that's the same for everyone. Nobody cares about those anymore. It needs to be personalized and tailored to their specific situation. That's what makes it feel like it was made for them. And when something feels made for you, you actually pay attention. And the entire purpose of this step is to get them to your world, to collect information about them so that you know exactly who is qualified and who isn't. And start building trust by proving you understand their specific problems. And a few other things you need to understand about this journey. Prospects go along this continuum that I was talking about. And the further along they are, the bigger the ask you can make. You don't ask cold traffic to book a call. You ask them to take a quiz. You don't push your main offer to someone who just opted in. You give them something for free. You escalate the ask as the trust increases. Always present the right offer at the right stage. Secondly, every layer exists to move them one step closer. There are no dead ends. Every lead, every prospect is always being nurtured, always being moved forward. And then thirdly, you need to funnel everything to one final destination, a qualified booked call for your high ticket service. Everything before that exists to make them more ready to book, more likely to show up, and more likely to close. That's the only purpose of everything else. To make them more likely to book, more likely to show up, and more likely to close. They have no other purpose. So back from the rant. The second reason why this works is because every layer has one job. Move trust from X% to Y%. Nothing more, nothing less. And then proof is wired everywhere. Your case studies aren't buried in a testimonial page. They're part of the journey. And lastly, this runs 24/7 without you. You build it once and it pre-sales prospects while you sleep. So now we get to the part you've all been waiting for. The system that actually builds trust at scale without you having to do it manually every single time. So part one is content. Content as a trust infrastructure. So the question you need to answer is, how do you build trust with thousands of people simultaneously without being on a call with every single one? And this all comes back to Google's study. Google made a study that on average it takes around 7 hours of content across 11 touch points in 4 different places to turn a stranger into a client. And this system engineers this deliberately. But quick context, this is actually very, very hard to actually accomplish in today's economy. People these days have such a short attention span that they can't sit through to watch even a 20-minute video. You'd be lucky if you get people to spend an hour with you before they get on a call. There's been studies that people consume on average 18 minutes of content between them booking a call and them showing up to the call. That's 18 minutes. That's not much, but obviously they will spend more time before booking a call because booking a call is a much bigger decision and requires much more trust. You need to understand that it's 400 times harder to get someone to book a call to come on the phone than to actually close them. You can very easily send 10,000 cold outreach messages and get only one of them to actually book a call. Very easily. But you can close 25% of everyone who comes on a call. So obviously, people are going to spend more time consuming your content before booking a call than after it. But almost no one is going to get the full 7 hours. But what you need to understand is that there's a one-to-one correlation between how much content someone has consumed and the likelihood that they close. So if someone has spent 10 hours watching your content, well, they are much more likely to actually close than someone who has only consumed 1 hour of your content. So you always want to get people to consume as much of your content as possible. But these days you need to be realistic. People are not going to watch your 5-hour webinar. That's not going to happen. People's attention spans are so low these days. There's so much things going on. There's so many things that they could do. So if you get someone to spend 30 minutes with you, that's 1/48th of the entire day, then you should be very, very happy. And the problem is that most people try to optimize their funnels to get people to spend more time on their funnels. But instead, you should optimize your funnel so that the people who spend the least amount of time there still understand what you do and the problems that you solve. But let's get back to this. So how do 7 hours should accumulate? So obviously your YouTube is going to do the heavy lifting here. Your YouTube videos are going to be the largest part of the 7 hours. But after that, they will still consume your email sequences, they will consume your VSL, they will consume your pre-call assets, and so on. And you obviously also have your Instagram, so your short form videos, your stories, but your YouTube videos, they do the heavy lifting. And all of these have different purposes. Your YouTube videos, they are native. Your email sequences, they purposely try to nurture people. Your VSL, well, that gets people to understand your methodology, your offer. And your pre-call assets makes people pre-sold and actually show up to the call. And your Instagram, well, that builds a personal connection, a personal touch with people. So every single thing has a different purpose, a different objective. Well, now what you may think is, well, I don't want to be a content creator. I don't want to create YouTube videos. And what you need to understand, you don't need to create thousands of videos. You only need to create a few strategic videos that work in your favor 24/7. Only around 10 videos, that's all you need, but they need to be strategically created. And the next obvious question then is, where do these topics come from? And they're not from what you think is interesting, they're from what your prospects actually say on sales calls. So you need to take your sales call transcripts, get the real pain points, get the real language, real objections, and then from this you get all your video topics, all your ad copy and angles, all your email sequences, and all your qualification questions. You need to always reverse engineer everything. You should never try to guess anything. Always use real data and get what prospects are telling you and use that. That's going to work 1,000 times better. And the reason is, when prospects hear their own words coming from your content, they think this person understands my exact situation. So here is 6 content types that you actually need to have on your YouTube channel. So the first is a your story video. So you need to show people and tell them how you got here, build personal connection. And it doesn't need to be a documentary, but you need to tie it to whatever you're selling, whatever your service is. Tell them how you got your expertise, how you got your knowledge. And this video, you should have one short form video about your story on your Instagram and one long form on your YouTube. Then the second one is a thesis video. You want to have a contrarian take, why the standard is broken. This is where you show your philosophy, your methodology, why you think different and how you think different to other people. And this gets people to think, wow, he sees things completely different to everyone else, and this makes you stand out. Then the third is your mechanism video, how your methodology works, the logic behind everything that you do. And this handles the objection, how does this actually work? And just to make things clear, these videos, well, yeah, they live on your YouTube channel, but they will also live in your sales system. You need to integrate these videos in your email sequences, on your thank you page, in your pre-call sequence, and so on. Then the fourth video is an edge case breakdown. And this answers the question, does this work for my specific situation? Here you handle 3 to 4 common edge cases plus case studies. So many people have so amazing case studies, they have amazing results that they get for people, but you don't post them anywhere. So please, if you're able to record, let's say a 30 minute, 1 hour video where you interview your past clients about the results that you got them, well, post that on YouTube. Let that sales asset, let that trust asset build trust for you 24/7. Then the fifth video is pain point videos. These are the more common YouTube videos that you see. So, and you want to create 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 of these videos where you deep dive into people's problems. So for me, it's low sharp rates, founder dependent sales, long sales cycles, and so on. And then lastly, you have a course, a very, very valuable video. And this is your most comprehensive piece, a 1 hour deep dive. And that's the exact video you're watching right now. This is my course video. So as I said, all these videos have a double duty. On one end, they get native YouTube views and they also get search traffic, but on the other end, you want to integrate them into your sales process. So your emails, pre-call, thank you page, and so on. And the thing with content is that it compounds over time. Unlike ads, every video is a permanent asset, a permanent trust asset that makes prospects pre-sold. They work for you 24/7 and they compound over time. Videos you posted years ago still generate you leads, calls, and sales every single week, and every new video adds fuel to this engine. And here's what you need to know. YouTube and Instagram, they work together. YouTube makes people think this person knows their stuff, but Instagram makes people think I like this person. The purpose of Instagram is to build a personal connection with people because people buy from people. People buy from someone that they know, that they like, that they trust. And with Instagram, you can build a real, genuine connection. People can see a part of your life, who you are. And if you have knowledge trust plus personal trust, well, that makes everything unstoppable. Then you can't not get sales, if you get what I mean. And this content creates a flywheel. So you create a YouTube video once, you get native views, and from those views, you get leads from your quiz. And after that, you got your email sequences. After that, you get more YouTube views. That builds more trust. Then after that, you get booked calls after trust has been built. You don't get booked calls right away. People go through this sequence. They go through a quiz, they go through your email sequences, they go through more YouTube videos, and then when trust is built, then they book a call. And then from these calls, from the clients you get, you can create more YouTube videos, and this flywheel continues to compound. Okay, so now that we have your content system set up, now the question becomes, how do we capture the leads and qualify the leads? And this brings us to the quiz lead magnet that I was talking about. And the problem here is that most people, they only collect name, email, and phone number. And that tells you nothing where someone is worth your time. Standard lead magnets, they are completely dead. Generic PDFs, nobody even wants to read them these days. There's zero personalization. Do you know how many lead magnets are out there? Every single person has a lead magnet these days, and everyone has the same CTAs. Comment scale, and I will send you the blueprint or so on. No, nobody cares anymore. Then you have your checklists. People downloaded it, but they never opened it. Then you have your free webinars, and everyone knows that it's just a pitch. It's so hard to get people to show up to webinars, especially if it's free. And what's even more hard is to get people to stick around, to get people to watch it until the end. And that's very back-end intensive. You need to have a great marketing team, great hires and everything to make this work. And the lead magnet overall is never good when it's evergreen and generic. The more specific it is, the better. The quiz lead magnet, it has 5 to 10 questions that customize the entire experience. So firstly, prospects answer a quiz about their unique situation, then results are tailored to their exact pain points, and lastly, they feel understood. Trust increases massively. And now you have data on every lead's exact problems. With these generic PDFs, they are same for everyone, as I told you. Nobody reads it, zero trust built, and zero info collected. And generic equals low value. But with a personalized quiz, it's tailored for them, it's massive trust built, and it's qualification in disguise. And the beautiful thing is, with the generic quiz, you only ask for their name, email, and phone number. 3 questions. But with the quiz, you can have 10 questions that are much more invasive and still get the same completion rate on the form because it's so much more valuable for people. And people don't hesitate to answer the questions because the questions feel part of the quiz, which they obviously are. And the reason why personalization wins is because it has a much higher conversion rate. The more specific you are to their exact pain points, the higher the conversion, always. And the golden question that's behind all of this is, how do you make something so personalized it feels custom made for every single prospect without spending hours per person? How do you create personalization at scale? And the answer is that you let your quiz answers determine what they see. This is personalized value at scale. So this is how the quiz funnel actually works. The quiz is extremely broad at the top, but extremely specific at the bottom. So your entire niche enters from the top. Then you have 10 plus question filters. Then they get a personalized result. And after that, only qualified ones exit. And to keep hammering down on the reasons why a quiz works, because it's personalized, it's perceived as more valuable. People finish 10 plus questions at the same rate as 3 questions. And you disguise the qualification questions as quiz questions. You know exactly who's qualified and who's not without asking invasive questions. And unqualified leads also, they never see a calendar. They go to a completely different page where your pixel is on fire. Their ad algorithm only trains on your good leads. And that means that your ads will be shown to the ones that you actually want to work with. Genius, huh? So this is the hidden power of the split flow. So everyone completes your quiz, and this all depends on your business. But if you're B2B, if you only work business that make over 30K per month, well then you should have that question in your quiz. And for everyone who says that it's more than 30K, well then you send them to this flow right here, to a page where your meta pixel will fire, so that they will find you more like this, and they have a chance to book a call. But if someone says that they make less than 30K, then you send them to another page where all the unqualified people go. And on this page, You don't fire a pixel. You never want to train your ad algorithm on people you never want to work with in the first place. But this is what so many people do. With a standard lead magnet, you can't create this split flow. Then everyone will just go to one place because you only ask for their name, email, phone number. Then you don't know who is qualified and who is not. And that means that you will be training your ad algorithm on every single one. And that includes the ones that you don't want to work with. So no wonder your ads are being shown to the completely wrong people. And then lastly, you don't want to let the unqualified ones book a call. You send them to free content to your YouTube or to your newsletter. So let's keep going. This brings us to qualifying your leads. And this creates a paradox. So many people think, if I qualify harder, I will lose sales. But the reality is, unqualified calls, they always clog your calendar. Qualified prospects can't find a time slot that suits them. And if you remove the bad calls, space opens, more good prospects book, and your close rates go up. You close more deals with fewer calls. But people don't think about this. With no qualification, you could spend $1,000 a day on ads and get a $50 cost per booked call. That's very cheap. That means that you get 20 calls per day. But because they are so unqualified, you let every single one on the phone. That means you maybe have a 5% close rate because you're speaking to completely, shit people. That means that you close one client per day. You close one out of every 20 sales calls. That means you need 4 closers, 4 salaries, and 4 times the management. So you get 1 client per 4 closers. That's terrible, right? But with qualification, you can spend the same 1K per day on ads. But now you have a much more expensive cost per booked call. You could have a 250 cost per qualified call. So you get 4 calls per day instead of 20 calls per day. And most people would panic by this stage. But because they are so qualified, you close 1 out of every 4. So now you still get 1 client per day, but you get 1 client per 4 calls. That means you only need 1 closer. You have better conversions, and the closer is much more motivated because they get a positive reinforcement more often. And the result is you have 1 client per 1 closer. And this makes your business so much easier. You don't need to manage a big team. And the thing is, with no qualification, you make no money anyway. All the money you make, you spend on your hires. The only way you can scale profitably is with qualifications. So the next important thing is speed to lead. Contacting your leads in under 1 minute increases your conversions by 391%, but after 5 minutes, it drops by 80%. And that's crazy, right? And the reason is that intent is perishable. The moment someone fills out your form, that's peak interest. And every minute that passes, they get distracted, they look at competitors, or they forget about you. You need to understand, when they watch your VSL, when they consume your quiz, then they are in a certain emotional state. They are in the right emotional state to make a buying decision. But every minute after that, the emotional state disappears. And the only way you can contact someone this fast is with an AI setter. You can't have a real human doing this because that's way too slow. And this also saves you hires, it saves you hiring people. This AI agent contacts every single lead instantly. And now that we have collected leads, the next question becomes, how do we convert these people into booked calls? And the first thing you need to understand is that there's 2 types of traffic and they need different paths. And the reason is because a warm YouTube viewer and a cold ad click are at completely different levels of trust. So with warm traffic, with people from YouTube, from Instagram, from email, from retargeting, well, they already know you. They just need that last push to book a call. So you want to send these people to a warm VSL page where you explain your offer, your methodology, and your results, so that you don't get people telling you what is it that you do exactly. And then after that, you have your qualification form with budget questions, readiness questions, and ICP fit questions. And then lastly, you have your calendar page where they obviously book your call, but you need to have some social proof and case studies on this page to nudge them over the line. But with cold traffic, with people from paid ads, for example, or short form content, well, they don't know you yet. They need warming. So these people you want to send to your quiz opt-in. And after that, you have your quiz form. And after the quiz, you want to have a code VSL page. And this is a different VSL page than this one. And the reason is because these people right here, they are still cold, they're not warm. On this one VSL page, you can be much more direct and asking people to book a call right away. But on this VSL page, this cold one, you can't be as pushy. You need to still educate people. You need to provide value to them. And then only after that can you ask them to book a call. So this VSL is completely different to this one. But then after this, you have the same calendar page that's only for qualified ones. And this is how you get qualified booked calls from 2 different traffic sources. And here is the VSL structure that you want. And this VSL structure works for both of these for warm and cold traffic, but as I said, they need to be different, and I will explain. So both of these obviously start with your hook. You need to call out your ICP. And in the quiz one, in the cold VSL, you could start by saying, congratulations, you are at level 5. You need to scale your ad spend. For example, if you look at Alex Hormozi, he has his free scaling roadmap, and that's a quiz. After you answer the questions, you're assigned a specific level. You could be level 0, you could be level 10, and every level has a different problem they need to solve. So if you're a fitness coach, it could be you're at level 3, fix your nutrition, for example. So at the beginning of the video, you call out their stage, where they're at, and their unique problems. It creates this personalization in a video you recorded once. But that means that you need to have a different Cold VSL video for different types of people who answer your quiz. So again, if I draw this flow, you could have your quiz form right here that then goes to 5 different pages depending on what people answer. And all of these pages, they can be exactly the same, but the only thing that's different is the hook in the video, for example, and the education part in the video. And the headlines should also be different because personalization, as I said, always increases conversions. So you want to try to have as much personalization as possible. And after the hook, you need to provide some proof, quick credibility, one quick sentence, one line that's facts and not bragging. Then promise what they will learn by watching your video. Then you want to hit on their pain deep on 2 to 3 problems in their language, not in yours. I see too many people mess up on this one. They talk about some, confusing things, their methodology. No one understands what the fuck you're doing. That's the problem. You need clarity over cleverness. No one will book a call if they don't understand what you do. And if you get people on sales calls asking, what is that you do exactly? Well, imagine how many people think that before booking a call. Just think. And after that, you want to quickly say who this is for, specific, so the right people feel seen. Then you want to quickly dive into your unique mechanism and just enough for the aha moment. And then you want to weave in some case studies, 2 to 3 quick before and afters, and provide real numbers. Then you show the plan, 3 to 5 steps, simple and clear, how you solve their problems. These right here. Then you have your FAQ section. You want to handle your top objections in this video. Then you want to show people their options. You should tell people, keep doing what you're doing or fix it. You can do it alone or you can do it with us. Just show their options and compare them. Then you have your value stack plus risk reversal. And if you get too many sales calls, then I recommend that you reveal the price in your VSL. But if you don't get enough booked calls, then don't reveal the price in your VSL. And then lastly, you have your CTA to see if you qualify. And this is important. So many people have their CTA button beneath the video be book a call or something like that. But that's way too invasive. That's too big of an ask. And you don't retain your frame. But if you say, see if you qualify, well, that's less invasive and you retain your frame. You subconsciously tell them that you're not accepting every single one. And I think if you do this for a warm VSL, then it should be much more, direct. But if it's for the cold VSL, then it needs to be much more educational and value driven. Because the people who still have seen you for the first time, they maybe spent 5 minutes with you at most. They saw a quick ad and they completed your quiz. So they're still strangers. You can't jump in and straight sell them. That doesn't work. And the length of your VSL should be around 3 to 12 minutes. Nothing more, nothing less. Too many people try to have like 30-minute VSLs, but as I told you earlier, people's attention spans are so low these days that they can't sit around and watch a 30-minute video. They don't have the attention span for that. Instead, you should try to compress your video into 3 to 12 minutes so that the people who spend the least amount of time on your funnel still know what you do and the problems you solve. And that brings us to the congruency rule. You want to say the same thing 1,000 times, not 1,000 different things once. And so many people do this mistake. They introduce so many new concepts to people in their VSL, on their landing pages, in their funnel, that people are completely confused. If they see your ad and after that they learn 10 new things, they're going to be so confused, not understand what you do, and then they won't book a call. Instead, you want to hammer the same thing 1,000 times so people understand exactly what you do and the problems you solve. Clarity is one of the biggest problems why people don't get enough booked calls. Because a confused mind never books a call. And the thing is that your ad, your landing page, your VSL, they should all say the same thing. If your ad says one thing and your landing page says a completely different thing, then there's that disconnect in between and people are going to be confused. And one trick to this is that in your ads, you want to show what the next step looks like. So if you send people to a quiz, for example, to a quiz opt-in page, at the end of the ad, when you have your CTA, you should show what your landing page looks like so people know what to expect. But then this brings us to the qualification form. So now we have the content system. We have collected leads. We have got leads to book a call, or not yet book a call. We have the qualification in between. So this is the qualification flow right here. So a prospect applies, and then you have different qualification questions. You could have revenue questions. You could have different ones. But if they are unqualified, then you redirect them to a free resource. You don't want to let them book a call. That could be your YouTube channel. But if they're qualified, then they see more questions. And if they answer the right ones in each one, if they're fully qualified, then you let them book a call. And a quick trick with your questions, let's look at an example. Let's say you are a financial advisor. Before, you could ask them, what's your income? Because let's say you only want to work with people who are at high income level. But instead of asking directly what their income is, you could ask them, how large is your investment portfolio? And this brings us back to the reason why you want to ask these questions, because you may have found out that people that have a 2 million plus portfolio, they may be close at 3 times the rate than other people. And it could be that if someone has a 500k portfolio, they close at 10%, and if someone has a 2 million plus portfolio, they close at 30%. These are things that you find out with time. And if you want to find out these things for your business, what you should do, what I told you, you need to take your sales call transcripts and you need to take their applications, put all of that into AI, and AI will look at what attributes correlated to a higher close rate, what attributes correlated to higher show up rate, and so on. And this is how you choose your qualification questions. And what you want to also do is you need to have qualification tiers. So, for example, like this. Tier 1 should be people that have a 15 to 20% booked to close rate. This brings us back to the data I talked about earlier in this video. So these people, they are much more likely to show up and close. So they should get the best time slots, they should get the best closers, and the pixel should fire on these leads. Then we have tier 2. These people who still are qualified, but they have a lower book to close rate, maybe 8 to 10%. So these people get the remaining slots, but no pixel fire, because you want to train your ad algorithm on only the best ones, because these are the ones that you ultimately want. And they could get, for example, 3 slots per day, and the tier 1s could get 7 slots, because you always want to reserve time slots for tier 1 people, because you don't want tier 2s to take up your entire calendar. That would be pointless, right? And then we have, tier 3, which are people who are below threshold, who are unqualified, and they should get no call in the first place. They are sent to free content, YouTube, and then they come back later when they are qualified. And I've talked so much about pixel conditioning in this video, but this is a quick visual of what it looks like. So if you run ads, this alone can really transform your ROI. So obviously, first have your ad, and if people are qualified, then your pixel fires. If you're unqualified, no pixel fire. This way, Meta learns to find more people that you actually want. And most people fire a pixel on every booking, and that is Meta to find more of everyone, including the $0 budget tire kickers who have all the time in the world to hop on calls. You're literally training your algorithm to bring you worse leads, and you don't want that, obviously. Your pixel is your language to Meta. If you fire your pixel on garbage leads, Meta will bring you garbage back, but if you fire a pixel only on tier 1, then Meta will find you more tier 1 prospects. So then we come to part 4, what happens after they book a call. And this is where most people do nothing, and it's where most money is lost. And the reason is because intent is perishable. Between the booking and a call, prospects have time to talk themselves out of it, look up competitors, forget why they were excited, and lose the emotional state that made them book a call. As I told you, if they consume your quiz, if they consume your content, then they are in the right emotional state to book a call. But if you have 3 days after the booking and showing up to the call and nothing in between, then there's so much time for them to lose that emotional state, and then they would never buy from you. So what most people do is they have a very standard generic Calendly confirmation email. Then they have a generic SMS, you're booked, and then nothing. 3 to 5 days of silence. Prospects cool off, gets retargeted by competitors, their friends maybe say those things never work, and their intent spike fades. But what you need to have instead is a very, very well structured thank you page. But I also see people that go too far in this direction. They put so much content on a thank you page that no one actually consumes anything because they become overwhelmed. I've talked about this so many times already, but people's attention spans are so low these days that they don't stick around and watch 10 videos. So if you hammer your thank you page with 15 videos that are all 30 minutes long, then no one will consume anything. And they won't do anything, and then your thank you page is as useless as this one right here. So it needs to be very strategically structured so to get people to actually consume your most important assets. So obviously you start with congratulating them, and then you want to tell them to complete the following steps before their call. And you want to start off with a micro commitment. You want to have an easy button. You want to have a little button on your thank you page that they can click, and that will open up their SMS or their WhatsApp, and you want to ask them to reply yes, to send you a message with yes, confirming that they will show up to the call. Because there's been studies, people who reply yes, people who say that yes, that they will show up to the call, they have a 95% chance of showing up to the call. But if someone doesn't confirm the call, if they don't send you a message, then the show up rate is around 50%. So you want to get the micro commitment, because if people actually tell you yes, I will show up, then they will do it. People don't want to lie. But if they don't explicitly tell you that they will show up, then their likelihood of showing up goes down dramatically. After that, you want to have your main video on the thank you page, your main long form video. And in this video, you should go in depth about your methodology, handling objections, and showing case studies. And in this video, you want to also, show what the next steps look like. So what they should expect from the call, what are the next steps they should do, and so on. And then beneath this, you should have objection handling mini videos. These are FAQ videos. So you probably get the same questions over and over again. So on your thank you page, you want to write, a question like this, and then you have a video beneath this. And this video should be like 1 to 3 minutes each, where you answer the question. And these are like mini VSLs. They should keep selling people before the call, because when someone booked a call, yes, they were sold enough to book a call, but again, that emotional state vanishes over time. So you need to keep selling them before the call. So after you answer the question, you need to bring that back to why they need to work with you. And then at the bottom of the page, you should have a bunch of case studies to reinforce their decision. And a pro tip is to have all of these videos be hidden YouTube videos. This gets the algorithm to retarget them. Because after they watch the video, they can instantly go to your channel, watch more videos, and consume even more content. And this brings us back to Google's 7-hour rule, where you want to get people to consume as much of your content as possible. And this is the sequence timeline before a call. So immediately after they book a call, you want to send them a confirmation email, and you want to start a conversation with them. Because you want to build a personal connection with them before the call. Because ultimately, you will be speaking to them on the phone in like 2 or 3 days. But if they trust you like a friend, if you have built a real connection with them, they are so much more likely to buy from you, because people buy from other people that they know, like, and trust. And the reason why I want to get them to reply yes is because of the confirmation bias. Once they say yes and reply, then they are committed. And then you want to send them daily objection handling emails until the call. And how you want to do this is, you want to look at their qualification form, you want to look at their pain points. You want to have a question where you ask, what are their biggest pains? And whatever they answer, you want to send a video specifically about that pain to the prospect. So if I take myself for example, if I have a qualification form and I ask, what's your biggest pain point? If someone asks, well, my show up rate is shit, well, then I would send them a video that goes over the show up rate problem. So now the emails become extremely personalized to every single one. And the reason I want to do this is because this addresses doubts before they even form. And then 24 hours before a call, the founder needs to send a selfie video to every single prospect. And the biggest problem I see is that so many people just don't care about the prospects that book a call. If you actually gave a fuck, if you actually cared about people who book a call, then so many more would actually show up. And the way you show prospects that you actually care about them is if you record a personalized video. This doesn't need to be long. It's like 15-30 seconds. You just say, hey John, I saw your application, you struggle with this, but that will transform your show up rate. And reason is because people buy from people. And what I forgot to tell you, in this video, you want to also transform trust to the closer. Because if you've done everything correct so far, if you've created your VSL, your thank you page videos, your trust assets, well then the prospect will trust you if you're the face of the brand. And that's the founder most often you are. So the prospect will trust you, but they will talk to a closer. So in this video, you want to transfer trust to the closer. You want to make your closer seem like a fucking man. So then morning of the call, this is where your closer will send a custom Loom video to your prospects. And they should show something that they have set up for a call. You need to show that you have put in some effort. They could say, for example, I pulled up notes on you and I created this slideshow, I created this presentation for you, and it shows that you actually care. It builds rapport before you even meet them for the first time. And then 1 hour before the call, you want to have your last confirmation, just that's simple. And this entire timeline should be at most 3 days. Now, you should never let people book a call more than 3 days into the future, because if you do that, then your show up rate will go through the toilet. Because as I said so many times, people are in that emotional state. But if they have 1 week between them booking a call and the actual call itself, then they have so much time to get out of that emotional state. And it's so hard to have a pre-call sequence, keep them in that emotional state for 1 week. So You need to only let people book 3 days into the future. And you will always have your highest show up rates the earlier people book. If someone books, the same day, then they have a much higher likelihood to actually show up. And this is the personalization layer that I talked about. Each objection email should include a YouTube video about prospects' biggest pain point based on their application answer. So if someone says they struggle with low shop rates, then I send them how to 2x your shop rate video. If they say they struggle with long sales cycles, then I'll send them a video about how to stop having 2-call closes. So without the pre-call, you will get people asking, what do? You will get the 45 minutes of explaining. You will get questions like, who else have you done this for? I need to think about it, and 90-minute calls. But with the correct pre-call, you can get people to say, I saw your case studies. I already understand your offer. I loved your video on X. When can we start? And have only 30-minute calls. And this is such a huge transformation. And this is all between the ad and the call. That's the only thing that matters. What happens here in between? So the result is that your calls are confirmation, not persuasion. They already know what you do, how it works, and why it's different. And the closest job goes from educate plus convince to confirm that they are the correct fit. So a quick recap about everything I covered. So with your lead magnet, you need to stop offering a generic PDF. Create a quiz with 5 to 10 questions so that you have a tailored output per person's situation. Then you want a value email sequence. Take your top 3 to 5 best performing content, then you force this into an email sequence to every single lead because you don't want to wait for people to find the right content. You want to force them to consume it. You want to push it to them. Then you want to have a VSL, you record one video, methodology, case studies, objection handling, and it's 3 to 12 minutes, and it should be a pitch if it's for warm people, but if it's for cold people, then it should not be a pitch. It should just be pure education. Then you have your qualification. Yes, your friction goes up, but qualified percentage goes way up. And as I talked about before, with the book to close ratio, with the lead to close ratio, you ought to understand. If your book to close rate goes up, but your cost per lead also goes up, well, you still make more money. And then you have your pre-call, 24 hours before, selfie video, saying their name, mentioning specific problems. And this will increase the shop rate by a lot. And then lastly, you have a thank you page with main education video, case studies, and watch this before your call. So now finally, let's tie all of this back together. So everything that I've covered so far should create an ecosystem. Every single piece should connect into one another. It should create one self-improving machine. So the full system looks like this. Every component feeds into the same destination, but more importantly, the system feeds back on itself. The AI SMS agent, your YouTube content, your Instagram, your quiz funnel, your VSL, your email sequence, your retargeting ads, and your pre-call sequence, everything comes together to create pre-sold sales calls. The purpose of everything is to make people pre-sold, to get them to trust you, to show up to the call ready with their credit card to buy your service. That's the only purpose. But obviously, you will always get people to leak out somewhere. And that's why you want to have some safety nets that capture lost intent. So every unconverted lead and no-show is money left on the table. It's ad spend thrown in the bin instantly. So you want to have one cart abandonment sequence. So these are for people who complete your qualification form. They land on your calendar page, but they don't book a call. These are people that are on the 1-yard line. They were so close to booking a call, so something happened. And a standard calendar page converts at maybe 50%. So every other prospect who completes your qualification form won't book a call. Now this means half of your qualified prospects just leave. So you want to have your AI agent plus email reminders for 2 weeks, trying to get people back to booking a call. And no, the AI agent won't contact them for 2 weeks. The AI agent just sends them one message, and if they reply, then the AI holds a conversation with them. But the emails, they are for 2 weeks. Then you also want to have no-show recovery. Still, if you have the best pre-call sequence, best thank you page setup, you will still get some people to no-show. And that's maybe around 10% of people. So you still want to try to get them back on the call. They booked, they didn't show. And that's not lost, it's still recoverable. You need to understand that. So 10 minutes after no-showing, the salesperson needs to contact them. But after that, they should be put into an SMS plus email sequence with results and option to reschedule. And then we come to the data part. So too many people actually track completely the wrong things. They are so obsessed about vanity metrics that have no real impact on your business. So many people care about how many views their video gets, but views have no correlation to getting leads or booked calls. If you get a lot of views on a video, that probably means that your audience quality is shit, that you get the wrong people to view your videos. Instead, you want to have fewer views, but every single view is a person who's the right fit to work with you. And then, too many people worry about cost per lead. They try to optimize for lower cost per lead, but this just means that you will be going after lower quality leads. And as I already told you so many times, working with lower quality leads almost never means that you will make more money. Most often, you want to do the complete opposite. You want to optimize for a higher cost lead to get higher quality leads, because this will make more money. And also followers, well, getting more followers, it does impact, it's more proof, but it's not the correct metric to track. The correct metrics to track is your lead to close rate, because this shows your entire system's throughput. It shows the throughput of the entire system. From the click, from your lead to the close. It shows every leak in between. Then you should track your cost per qualified lead. This is a number that actually matters. Then you should also track your qualified booking percentage. If under 50% of people book a call are unqualified, then something's really wrong. And then other important metrics are your show up rate, close rate by source. So this means, people who come from YouTube usually have a higher close rate than people who come from ads. And this is something that you should track. It gives you more insight on your business. And then your book to close by attributes. So if you go to the financial example, you could find out that if you have a 2 million plus portfolio, then they have, a 20% book to close ratio. But if they have a 500K portfolio, then their book to close rate is maybe 5%. And this is how you create your tiers. This should be your tier 1, and this is maybe unqualified, because you need to draw the line somewhere. Your book to close rate creates this spectrum right here. Here you have a 0% book to close rate. Here you have maybe, let's say 20. It's very hard to get more than 20%. But somewhere you need to draw a line where the unqualified people are. Who do you still want to get on the phone with? Because if someone has a 1% book to close rate, then that's not a great investment to get on a call with them, because you will be getting on 100 calls before closing someone. Or you will be booking 100 calls with them before closing even one. So maybe at 5%, this is maybe where you draw the line. So everyone who's below 5% book to close rate, they are unqualified, you never speak to them. But if they are above 5%, then you can speak to them, and this is where you create the tiers. But this is something that you have to choose yourself. And the last metric that's also important is your PIF rate. What people have the highest likelihood to actually pay in full during the first call. And how you find out all of this is again with an AI sales analysis workflow. So you want to feed your last 20 to 30 sales call transcripts to AI and extract everything. So what you send is your sales call transcripts plus their application plus other prospect data. So all the conversations you had with them and so on. Then the AI will process it, and what you get is their common pain points, their exact language, the attributes that predict closes, you get the objections that you need to pre-handle, and you get the questions you should be asking during the call, but also in your qualification form. So you want to always reverse engineer everything. All your copy, your quiz, your VSL, your emails, everything should be from real data, no guessing. And the outcome of everything I talked about today is, without the system, your revenue depends on how hard you actually work. Your founder, as a founder, you have to be on every call to actually keep your close rate at a high enough percentage. More leads, prospects are still cold, skeptical, 30 minutes educating. I need to think about it. Every call starts from 0, CAC is climbing, 2-3 closures needed. But with the system I told you today in this video, then you have a predictable pipeline that runs on autopilot. Your sales team can actually close without you. Every lead is pre-educated before the call. Prospects are pre-sold, calls are confirmation. You get people to ask you, when do we start? Not these other weird questions that you hate. And the system improves itself, your CAC lowers, and you can have, one call closes instead of 2 to 3 fucking closes. It all just becomes so much more fucking simple. Your business doesn't need more leads. It needs every lead to be worth 10 times more by the time they talk to your team. And I've created 3 important videos that you should go watch after this one. So if you're intrigued about the quiz funnel, the quiz lead magnet, I've created a video exactly about those, about lead magnets. And this video is about the quiz. I believe the title is I audited 53 lead magnets. Here's what gets pre-sold leads or something like that. And then I have a video that goes extremely in depth about the entire sales system, the entire flow of how it's set up, every single piece, where it goes, where it flows. And I believe this video's title is the most valuable sales funnel training you will ever see, or something like that. And then the third video is, if you're intrigued about the pre-call system, then I create a video also about that. And I believe this video's title is around how to engineer 86% show up rates and one call close, something like that. So now you can choose if you want more info about leads, more info about the sales system, or more info about pre-call. So I will put all these 3 videos in the description. You choose which you want to watch. And I will also put my Instagram in the description below. So if you have any more questions about anything that I covered in this video, feel free to shoot me a DM and I will be more than happy to help you out. But see you in the next one.